After this policy reversal from the Biden administration, many Israelis are understandably displeased, with many criticizing the decision. Here to speak with us is Mayor of Efrat, Oded Revivi. Oded, thank you so much for joining us. First off, what is your take on this policy reversal?
I think it's important to understand that President Biden, like many other politicians, is a politician who is also running a campaign to be re-elected as President of the United States. Obviously, his decision is extremely upsetting for me in personal and also for all the rest of the residents in the state of Israel, and especially in Judea and Samaria. But I would like actually to examine him rather than on his words, on his actions. And if he's saying those things in order to base his campaign within the Democratic Party, that's one thing. But when we see what the American administration has been doing in the last 4 months, the aid for us to carry on the war that we are fighting in order to protect and provide safety and security to the residents of the state of Israel, the ammunition that's being flown over here, the aircraft carriers that are around our sea shores, all these things are definitely showing that even President Biden, with a Democratic administration, is behind the state of Israel. So to sum it up, I am upset with his decision, but I would like more to examine him on his actions rather than on his words.
Now, it is true that there are many scholars and experts who claim that settlements are illegal. I'd like to hear from you. Why do you believe they are wrong, and what are they missing?
I think Israel for many years has been arguing that the settlements are not against the international law. And if I want to sum it up in one basic claim, the argument that Israel's presence here and building towns and cities in Judea and Samaria is against the international law is based on the assumption that this is occupied territories. Those people who accuse Israel of being here on occupied territories fail to see one very significant historical event. Israel was attacked on the Six-Day War in 1967 on all fronts, and basically under the belief of the Arab countries that they will push us into the sea, and if they attack us coordinatedly enough, they will be able to take this land over. With some miraculous act, the wheel turned around and Israel found itself widening its border in the east, in the south, and also in the north. But afterwards, we were the ones who invented the equation of land for peace, thinking that these areas that we conquered, released, occupied, use whichever politically correct term you want, we will offer it as peace offerings, and in return we'll get peace. But when we signed the peace agreement with Egypt, and later on with Jordan, they basically signed a waiver in writing that they don't want the land, they don't want the Gaza Strip, they don't want Judea, Samaria, or East Jerusalem. And when they signed that waiver in writing, a legal transformation happens. You can't call it occupied territories if the previous occupier has signed a waiver in writing unwanted goods. At the best case scenario, you can call it disputed territories. And if you change already the legal terminology into disputed territories, there is nothing in the international law against what Israel is doing in these areas of land. So therefore, people don't follow through the legal arguments, they don't follow through the historical arguments, and then they would understand that there is no backing for their accusation that what's happening here is against the international law.
Now, if these settlements are deemed illegal by the United States, what practical impact does this have, both in terms of Israel's battle for legitimacy as well as on the ground, practically?
I think it creates a bad atmosphere. I don't think it really creates any significant change than what we knew in the past. It is an issue which is disputed between Israel and the international community. It just means that the foreign ministry, the Israeli government, needs to work harder in order to explain the legal arguments, what we're doing here is not against the international law, why we're entitled to do it, and why at the end of the day, the actions taken by the Israeli government don't only provide housing for more families who have a desire to live in this region, but also raise the level of security for the other parts of the country.
Now, what do you think, you mentioned a little bit about the political motivation. What do you think is the motivating factor behind this policy reversal? Is it just the elections, or does the administration really believe what they're claiming now?
I can't read their minds and thoughts. I think you suggested there beforehand that if they would have done it at the beginning of the term, it would have seen that that's the policy they want to carry out. The fact that they're doing it now in the last months of this term with when it's uncertain whether President Biden will get reelected or not, I think it's really more to serve his political internal agenda than really an indication of a change of policy that's going to take place now in the last few months of his term, with really no time to create any such significant issues that maybe he's suggesting.
Oded, thank you so much for joining us on these important topics.